Developer Panic Button has already made a substantial mark on the Switch library with their ports of Rocket League and Doom. Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus, makes a strong case for being their most ambitious port to date, as it regularly suffered hitches in performance even on much more powerful hardware. Of course, beyond all of that is the core game itself. As Wolfenstein 2 was announced for Switch prior to its release on other consoles, I made the conscious choice not to buy it for another system. I wanted to see if my experience could simply represent Wolfenstein 2 rather than Wolfenstein 2 on Switch. Our hero, William B.J. Blazkowicz, starts things off by awakening from a coma. He spends the next couple hours monologuing to himself about his inevitable death due to reasons.
How am I gonna tell her I'll be joining you, Caroline? Make her watch as I fade away. Maybe she already knows. Keeps pretending, like me.
The endlessly grumbling voiceover describing his planned death prior to the birth of his children and his utter defeat in the thought of leaving his wife alone caused me to quickly lose interest in the character. He made some progress back into my heart as his story developed, but he was easily the weakest character in an otherwise fantastic cast. In fact, I was surprised by just how much story Wolfenstein 2 had. Pre-rendered cutscenes bookend each level and, at times, go on for quite a while. They are excellently executed and hide almost all of the loading screens, excluding death, from the player. That being said, the pre-rendered nature of these scenes made them feel very segregated from the rest of the experience. I generally found myself setting down the controller and getting comfy every time one started up. I love a good story in a first-person shooter, but being pulled out of that first-person perspective always feels jarring to me, no matter how good the story is. Wolfenstein 2 is a highly dynamic first-person shooter that offers a variety of playstyles. Virtually every mission can be approached stealthily by systematically hunting down enemy commanders and avoiding detection. Alternatively, a guns-blazing approach is equally valid. While stealth requires you to take each level slowly and may add to your playtime, aggression will generally lead to additional troops being called in. The option to dual-wield with multiple weapon types makes for even more variability within the aggressive route. Early in the game, I favored a loud and proud approach to combat, but as I progressed and upgraded a few of my weapons with suppressors, I started to favor being a bit more sneaky. You are regularly treated to new abilities and upgrades that help keep combat fresh, regardless of your method of dispatching Nazis. Adding some uniqueness to the Switch version are motion controls. They're not turned on by default, but I strongly recommend them. I found them especially helpful when playing with Joy-Cons, as they help make up for some of the precision lost by those tiny analog sticks. However, even when playing with a Pro controller, I still found I was better off with the motion controls turned on. On a technical level, Wolfenstein 2 is, for the most part, extremely impressive. The frame rate is capped at 30 frames per second, and in general holds close enough to that goal not to be distracting. There were a few isolated areas where a complex environment caused a noticeable drop, but these areas aren't common. Resolution is handled similarly to last year's Doom port, with a variable pixel count based on what's happening on screen. During portable play, the resolution can drop very low at times, and there were definitely moments where I did feel that this impacted gameplay. It is to be expected, given that you're playing a full-featured, current-generation shooter on a handheld, but it's still unfortunate. Docked play holds up better, and the resolution changes, while still noticeable, weren't as significant an issue. Wolfenstein 2 is a deep and varied shooter. Its story, with few exceptions, is excellently written and performed. A reliance on long pre-rendered cutscenes may bog down the progression now and then, but even in those moments, the story was compelling enough to keep me going. The Switch is clearly pushed to the breaking point by some of the more intense moments, but it manages to pull through with only a few, albeit substantial, issues. Wolfenstein 2 is another strong addition to Bethesda's growing Switch library, and another praiseworthy effort from Panic Button. Thank you very much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, giving it a like, and don't forget to hit that bell icon if you actually want to see what we post. For a whole lot more, you can check out NintendoWorldReport.com, and if you want to support both this channel and the site, you can check us out at patreon.com/NWR. You can also join our Discord by clicking the link in the description.